Now, the United Nations has granted Nigeria sovereignty over additional square kilometers of maritime territory. Nigeria submitted a request in 2009 through the High-Powered Presidential Committee, or HPPC, on the country's extended continental shelf project. It's said that the economic potentials of the newly acquired territory are vast, including increased investments in hydrocarbons, gas, solid minerals, and a wide variety of sedentary species. With more on this, on what it means, I'm joined now in the studio by Arise's political editor and director of news, Sumner Sambo. Good to see you, Sumner. So UN granted Nigeria sovereignty over additional square kilometers of maritime territory. Let's get past the jargon. Tell us what it means.
Yeah, thank you so much, Charles. This is actually cheering news that came to the nation since last year. I mean, this is just a formal way of briefing the president now. That had happened last year, and sometime in 2022, former President Buhari had also been briefed by this technical committee. It's actually about the sovereignty of the country. Now, the maritime borders have been extended by this development by 220 nautical miles. And with this development, it comes at a specific area that's called the Joint Development Zone. Those within the energy industry actually call it the Golden Triangle. It lies between Nigeria, Sao Tome and Principe, and Cameroon. Now, this place actually holds a huge deposit of, hydrocarbons, gold, and other solid minerals. Now, the extension of this continental shelf for Nigeria is actually a good news because several oil majors, including ExxonMobil, had been looking for ways to actually win, mining licenses, oil mining licenses within this area, because the potentials of the oil and gas deposits, they are just,
enormous.
Yeah, enormous. And so we've been working this out, but previous Nigerian governments actually didn't really see the need to invest in this until sometime around 2009 when late President Umar Shehu Musa Yar'Adua actually took an interest because it had been there since the UN had been pleading with us to show some interest, because our continental shelf actually, there were potentials of extending it there by up to like about 350 nautical miles. But we didn't really show so much interest. But when this was explained to the former president, who's now late, he took interest in it. And from there, we developed it. And by 2013, the Nigerian Senate had to say that, look, we should push away the bureaucracy that was making the country not to increase, its interest in this. And so that's when the high-powered presidential committee was set up, which you just talked about there. And Ambassador Hassan Umar is actually the one who chaired it. He's someone who has worked with the Nigerian presidency and an energy expert very well. And since then, we've been able to make a good presentation following through the National Boundary Commission. And eventually, the UN has now granted us this. And it's all joy. It all depends on how we're also able to use the potentials in this to the betterment of the people.
That's always the bottom line, isn't it? But this did not involve taking territory or space from anyone else.
Yeah, that's the good news. Like that. You could see if you go to the South China Sea, for example, you see what's happening there.
A lot of disputes.
Yeah, lots of disputes, and the Chinese are trying to take full control of that place. But of course, you see the interest by the US and other people. So, for this to have happened without any bullet being fired, unlike the land dispute we had between Nigeria and Cameroon, that had to go to the International Court of Justice. This is good news for us. And with President Tinubu being briefed about this fully, the options that are available to us is actually to accept this extension that's from 200 to 220 nautical miles, or we could actually go further, accept this, and then still put in a dispute, we do another presentation that could actually take another 4 years. But, I think the best thing would be for us to actually just take these quick gains that we've had.
But that would depend on the president, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
That's why they're briefing him.
Yeah, and then he has
we've got options.
Yeah, lots of options.
Yeah. But what are they recommending there?
Yeah, I mean, the president hasn't really said much.
Right.
He only thanked the committee of experts that brought this to his attention. And he also informed them that former President Buhari had told him about it, that he was so elated about it when he was briefed from 2015 when he took over, and he tried to accelerate it. In fact, he was so joyful about it that he empowered the committee and ensured that the Attorney General of the Federation, Minister of Justice then, Abubakar Malami, was in that committee. So that increased the tempo of the work. But unfortunately for him, he wanted it to be concluded within his administration. But unlucky for him, that announcement from the UN came in August 2023, just a few months after he had left power. So it's left to President Bola Tinubu to see how Nigeria could actually harness the potentials of this place. And I can tell you, Charles, there's a lot of interest by the international oil companies in this particular place. And that's why it's called Golden Triangle, because there are huge deposits of oil, gas, other hydrocarbons, solid minerals, and all of that. And it's within the Gulf of Guinea. Nigeria has a huge interest there. We have a huge naval asset there. And there's no reason why we shouldn't take the full potentials of this extension, which is about more than 5 times the size of Lagos, to our advantage. Because if we don't, I mean, and we just leave it the way it is right now, lying fallow, we could actually have some people doing some things there secretly without our knowledge. But we have a naval presence there. And with the interest we've seen the oil majors showing, I think the next major discovery in terms of offshore oil mining could be within this axis.
Sumner, thanks very much indeed. Cheering news, I have to say.
I mean the whole sad news that you get from Nigeria every now and then.
When it comes to the economy.
So
that's good economic news. Thank you very much indeed. Arise's political editor and director of news, Sumner Sambo.